Okay, welcome everyone to Building Indigenous Food Sovereignty, How Creating a Tribal Department of Agriculture Can Help. This was originally, we were thinking sort of a Michigan-ish kind of conversation. And then as you heard, if you were on early, you heard us chatting about how we shared it to a bunch of lists and we got lots of enthusiastic interest from across the country. So welcome from everyone. We're so excited to have you here. So my name is Lindsay Scalera, and I am the Assistant Director of Policy and the Director of the MSU Center for Regional Food Systems Policy and Leadership Education Program. Super long title. I'm really pleased to welcome you all to our session, and I want to set a little context for us. So we have a whole group of people, kind of an ecosystem almost of people here to share about what's been happening here in the Michigan region. And we just want to shout out to all of us who are kind of co-hosting this. We have members of an emerging Michigan Intertribal Food Sovereignty Coalition. Rachel and I are kind of home based at the Center for Regional Food Systems, and we co-coordinate the Local Food Council Network and the Statewide and Regional Food Systems Plans National Community of Practice, along with our colleague Colleen Matz, who may be here but is not part of this presentation. And then we've got Emily, Harmony, and Wendy, say hello, from who are working within the Michigan Intertribal Land Grant Extension, Michigan Intertribal Land Grant Extension System, MILES, the overall Michigan State University Extension and Tribal Extension. All right, and we have Nickole Keith here from the Nottawaseppi Huron Band of the Potawatomi and Will Derouin. Did I say it right?
Very close.
Very
Derwin. Thank you.
Derouin. All right. I should have asked you before we got started. I'm sorry. From the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians here. And they will be sharing, getting a little bit more in depth about their respective departments of agriculture. So thank you all for being here. Thanks to all of our partners bringing these place-based stories together to share and inspire. And hopefully we'll get into some good chat and questions. Okay. As part of this, I want to just take a moment to say those of us who are hosting this are kind of based in the Michigan region here. And so we are living and working within the ancestral and traditional and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe Three Fires Confederacy of Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi peoples. This map, I put the link down for where you can find this. It's beautiful. I'm just going to read from their website. So this constellation map reimagines how Indigenous nations can be shown, on a map by highlighting relationships, connections, and presence rather than strict borders. And so we definitely encourage folks to take a look at this website if you are looking to better understand, who lives in your area and where you live, work, and can partner. So thank you. All right, and then just a quick little plug about what the our National Community Practice for Statewide and Regional Food System Plans. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but this is bringing together folks who are, for emerging and existing food system plan efforts to share knowledge and strengthen local and regional food systems. So we have a lot of learning sessions and connecting and stuff planned for the year. So that'll be open for everyone. So you can learn more about it here and sign up so that you'll get the alerts. All right. I think that brings us to our whiteboard session. Okay, we're going to do a grounding activity with everyone. Even though this is a webinar, we wanted to make it a little bit interactive. So I'm going to stop my screen share and turn it over to my co-host, Emily.
Awesome. Miigwech. Ani Odemi Queen Indigenous Migizi Notum Wanganaxing Odawa, Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa Indians, and Strawberry Woman. I am Eagle Clan, and I work for MSU Extension, Tribal Extension Educator, and I have I would say, the best opportunity to work with some of the most caring and loving people in Extension and in our communities, and many of those are here today. So I want to say to you, Miigwech, for taking time out of your day to be with us, to share your journey, and to listen to our stories. So to get us a little bit more into the conversation and to dive a little bit deeper to prayers to hear from Nickole and Will. I am going to, hopefully this will work. Right now, I only have access to host and panelists for
Oh,
my
I
chat.
will fix that. Okay,
But
I'm gonna fix that.
as we are amending that, take a literally 30 seconds, 45 seconds to think about what Indigenous food sovereignty means to you. What does Indigenous food sovereignty mean to you? And so, again, a few moments to think about your responses. And if you could, click on the link that has been shared with you in the chat. All right. I see you all joining. Thank you for that. And if you could, grab sticky notes. One idea per sticky note, if you could, and share with us what you're willing to share about what food sovereignty means to you. All right. Okay. And if I see things in the chat coming through, I can also type those.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get them on there.
Awesome.
And I think we're gonna find out. I think I can share my screen so that if you are not able to join that whiteboard for whatever reason, you can at least see what's going on. I think I can do this. We're learning this technology.
And please, host, panelists, participants, everyone, please share if you would like to.
Figure this out. Okay, I do. Okay, I'm going to attempt to share this on the screen. Is that working? Can folks?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're not in the whiteboard directly, you should be able to see the image. Go ahead.
Lindsay, could you share the link one more time? Oh, yeah. Rachel. Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, beautiful.
Got it.
Go team.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Yes, I went there.
It's true. This looks like a bunch of little birds like flying around.
It is. It's pretty. And all the different color stickies and all the ideas. Yes.
Yeah. Snap to people who like do the fun colors.
Yes.
I love it.
Lindsay, I don't see the whiteboard on your screen. It's just
you don't.
black.
Huh.
Yeah, someone else just put that in the chat too.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, we are learning. The whiteboard. Okay, I'll stop my share. I wonder.
How about this?
Yeah, Emily, if you want to go.
Is that working?
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah,
okay, maybe
me too.
Because, I don't know how this works, but whatever works. There we go.
We got it. There we go. Nice work. All right. I think we've got a few more moments. All right, we are seeing. Oh, okay. Multiple comments. So I can start reading a few of those off if that's okay. If there's any that in particular you'd like to share, please. Oh, good, it works now. Great.
This is so nice.
It is. So we have access to land and native seed, teaching younger generations about traditional foods. I don't leave my community to find what we need. I don't have to leave my community to find what we need. Okay. Preservation of knowledge, ways, food, etc. leads to perseverance, growth, determination, and health. Okay, we're connecting to our mother and her genetic nourishment. Freedom, processes, access to good, healthy food. Let's see. It's a reclamation of our foodways that the U.S. government attempted to destroy. Community engagement on how to grow food and share it with your community. Education on how, what, and why mattering most. Sovereignty. GNTY. Okay. Genetic nourishment. Oh. Okay.
Emily, I wonder if you can scroll down a little bit too, because I think there's, yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, perfect. Now we can kind of see everybody. And some folks I think are answering question number 2 as well, which is good. We'll get back to that question, but feel free to add your responses if you want.
Oh, whoops.
That's all right.
It's all good. It's all good.
It is good. I like someone wrote control over value chains.
Oh.
Shout out to value chains. It's not just the supply chain. We, in our Good Food Charter, kind of pulled together the definition from a couple of different places, but value chain, recognizing the relationships between supply chain partners and purchasers, and valuing those relationships.
And it's Sue on food, access, and choice. Choice.
Mm-hmm.
Choice. Yep. Our food can be free of outside interference. Okay. I gotta zoom in a little. Team here. It's not just the talk about food systems, but standing in relation to the soil and plants and animals within them. It is self-determination in practice. Self-determination. I once had a tribal leader talk about when you're developing land, or if you are talking about land, whatever soil is on that land, you want to keep track of where that soil is placed. So if you have to move soil because it is part of land that is on your tribal land, you want to keep track of it and know where it is and know how it's being cared for. So just the thought of caring for soil in so many different ways, but also knowing that so many activities happen with regard to land use, but you can still think of and care for the land that is being moved around even, which I very much value. I want to say that was probably Frank who probably shared that back in the day. Frank Edward Nishik. But you think about land, it's very, very much living. Okay, the ability to sustain a supportive system that better equips the community to continue traditional practices and techniques on a respective scale. Okay. Oh, let me zoom back out. All right. Okay, so miigwech for sharing your ideas, helping to provide your input and thoughts with regard to Indigenous food sovereignty and what it means to you. And we will revisit this particular whiteboard towards the end of our time together. And yeah, miigwech for folks who've already started on frame 2. And as we move into hearing and learning from Nickole and Will, perhaps towards the end, thinking about what that looks like in your community. What are some takeaways, or what are questions you may have? So please continue to add to this if you so choose throughout, but we will be revisiting one more time together. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Emily. All right. I think without too much further ado, I think we're going to turn it over to Nickole to share her screen and tell you a little bit more about the Nottawaseppi work that she's doing. Okay, I'm going to spotlight you, Nickole.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
No.
Yeah, we just see you right now.
Yep. We all work through the technology together, so I'm gonna give it another try.
Here.
I think, let's see if I can. It worked early. No, I can't do a request on that. Oh, I think it's working. It's loading. Yes, we can see your
Yep.
screen.
You're good.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Nickole. Take it away.
Okay. Can you see the middle? Like there's their picture? It's not showing on my end, but
Oh,
okay.
weird.
I just
We can see it says food sovereignty approach to healing and recovery. And
okay.
there's the big circle kind of thing.
All right. Bonjour, my name is Nickole Keith. I am a tribal member from the Huron Band of Potawatomi. We are of 12 bands. I'm the food sovereignty coordinator. I've been working for the tribe for about 15 years. I started off as a tribal youth specialist, and then I transitioned into tribal elder specialist. And then I took a year off, and then this job came up, and kind of what grounded both of my jobs, my prior jobs, was food. I really enjoy cooking, and we've been known as like the cooking family, and so I always like cooked for all the events. I went into catering business, and then came back, did this job. I was finishing off a grant for the ANA, the Administration of Native Americans. We had a huge grant to kind of start our food sovereignty initiative. It was during COVID. I was in the last year of that grant, and with my ADHD, it kind of blew up into all kinds of different programs. And here I am now, 5 years later. And so I'll go into, oh, there goes the picture. All right, I'm not computer savvy. Here goes the rest of the picture. Okay, so what kind of launched our program was the social media. We went directly to Facebook. We launched the NHBP Food Sovereignty Group. It kind of went here and there a little bit, but then when we start promoting things and displaying what we already had and what we've been doing, soon it picked up, and now 5 years later, we're at about 1,700 people on our the Food Sovereignty Group. It started off in June 2020. We did live videos. Our live videos were done with a regular little camera. We couldn't have a lot of people at our community center during that time. And we just kind of just did it. And we did like simple recipes, and it kind of just took off. And then I'm going to the next slide. There it goes. So about about 2 years ago, this post actually went viral. And so what kind of like grounded us with our food was that we had our wild rice and we had our maple syrup, and then we kind of had a small garden. And it kind of like just didn't like really take off. And then we have our wild rice season at the end of September. And just things like we weren't getting a lot of participation over the years. And with the social media platform, that kind of escalated everything. So we were able to put like our menus on there and get people to come and kind of advertise. And I advertised like a couple of weeks before the event started. And that kind of built the momentum. And then all of a sudden we had like universities wanting to come. We have partnered with the University of Indiana. And then we end up documenting our wild rice since I took this position. So about 4.5 years. And we were able to showcase, I believe Lindsay is going to put our bookmark up, but those QR codes, one of them is wild rice, the river banks to the table. which was Emmy nominated, and that is on that QR code, so you can see the full video on that. So we had a lot of feedback when this went viral, and a lot of different tribes asked us, like, you guys transplant? And we never heard of it. And so we kind of made contact with different tribes, and we didn't know. We've been doing it all along, and we had no idea that nobody knew about this. So that helped develop relationships, and relationships are key. I'm gonna keep saying that throughout this slideshow. And again, the social media impact, we're able to get a hold of those tribal members that we don't come in contact on a daily basis. So we have members that live in Maine and Guam and Florida and Georgia and California, and they are like our most present on our social media. They're like, okay, what's going on now? And then they share, and then that helped build up relationships, especially like in the warmer states. So we have a tribal member elder in South Carolina and a tribal member elder in Tennessee that grows us our SEMA, which is our tobacco. And we don't have to grow any tobacco here. That was one of our projects that we worked on for many years, but now they actually take the time and they grow it all throughout the whole year and do the drying process and everything and ship it back to us. And then again, with the social media platform, I've been in contact with a number of doctoral students that I'd worked directly with, including from Yale and Harvard and Arizona State. And I did numerous trips. I usually try to keep it within our tribe. So if there's a member that's in Arizona State, if they ask me to come or ask me to do a webinar, I try to, make that happen. Or if somebody else in our department can make that happen. And then again, on our social media platform, we were able to get in contact with Jody Matina, who is also a Potawatomi tribal member, but lives in Tennessee. And she went viral during COVID with her fire cider recipe. And then a tribal member got me in contact with her, and I was like, hey, do you want to be a part of this group? Do you want to make some videos? So she actually started making videos at home, and then we'll compensate her, or either if there's a particular meal that we've had in our families, we'll have her cook it. And that like went really crazy. She ended up developing a book out of that, and now she's working on her second book. Those books are also on Amazon. And then with all those videos combined, there's more videos. Let me slide. So this last year, we're still waiting for those to be edited, but we launched a puppet series to be included with these videos, and then to be a standalone series by their own, so that we can help with our language and different culture teachings that could be viewed online. And so that opened up to having our own YouTube channel, because everybody wanted to know, like, where are these videos at? Where are they home? Where is considered home? And so we end up launching a YouTube channel. And then we expanded what we teach. This is a tribal member wife family that have shakes in her diet. Crystal is battling with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. And I actually changed my diet to this once a day in the morning, because we all neglect ourselves, and we try to have something on our stomachs in the morning. So with this, she did this diet. So we made a whole video, a 2-part series, one on the family sobriety and then one based off her diet. And she was able to, she is lupus free and rheumatoid arthritis, has no more flare-ups. She's gone back to making jewelry, which she had left because of her flare-ups. And just, we try to like get, the relationship is so, that I stress that so much, like, be one-on-one with people. Don't just be behind this facade. You actually have to live this life and be talking to these people who are making those changes, and then to put them on your media or your social media, or make them an example of how that you want your community to be. And the videos, again, we showcase this. So as a Potawatomi Nation, we gather every year, and each tribe hosts the gathering, which is like a Potawatomi family reunion. This one we hosted, I believe 3 years ago. I wanted to showcase food sovereignty. We always like did smaller, little breakout sessions, but like to really showcase that who we are and to get to know our different tribal councils. And so I asked for 4 tribal councils to send 2 people to be representatives and to actually cook like on Food Network, like have the whole video process going and everything. And this like was instrumental on to today on who we are now and how we gather and what we talk about during those gatherings. And food sovereignty is like number one. Okay, what are we gonna do? The Huron Potawatomi did this video. What are we gonna do next? And so that was really, and I broke out of my shell. I always wanted to like be funny on stage, and I got the opportunity. We were able to edit this and to provide it on our YouTube channel too. And again, another thing is our relationships. So our relationships within our tribal government has always been like this. We're always in our own world, doing our own thing. And when our department expanded, I'm in the culture department, I was like, okay, we need to find out who has what, as far as like inventory of big tractors, garden supplies, any type of something to use for gathering, gardening, who has what. And so I created a task force, and then I found out these pockets of different things that were missing within these departments. And the number one was the health department and the courts. So in talking with the task force, we developed a food pantry. We first were supposed to start off with Indigenous food and to meet those unmet needs within our community, who's not eating and who needs help with food. And then it turned into, okay, we're going to help out domestic violence, and then we're going to help out maternal health, and then we're going to help out social services. We're going to help out those grandparents who are struggling at taking care of their grandkids, who need an extra box of diapers at the end of the month. And so we created this closet at our church that's on a reservation, and we took over their basement. And we have representatives going in there about once a week, restocking everything, dry goods, Indigenous products, household goods, there's all kinds of things in there. And then we expanded it to our government workers and our casino employees. And then creating that relationship with courts helped us get a culture of care worker. It helped us get a cedar press. So we're making cedar oil, and there's countless other things. And we host different events throughout the year. Here's a picture. We had a donation from one of our economic development companies in the far right corner. And our number one product is our baby supplies. And then on the left is our members of our health department. So I work directly with our dietitian, and I work directly with our manager, who is Shelby, who is the outreach manager for health department. And that has been the most amazing relationship because they help me with securing grants, and then we share grants just like we share grants with courts. And I really strongly advise that for tribes to have departments work together. And then if you ever want to start something, always have your elders behind your back. Listen to them, sit down with them, know them by name. If you're not Indigenous, just come in there and find out who those elders are, who lived off the land, who did what, and just get to know them and build that relationship. Building those relationships, we had different parcels that the tribe bought, and all the elders are like, okay, what are we going to do with these parcels? And so one of our main parcels that's coming into the reservation is on a major highway, and it was a 22-acre parcel that was formerly a farm. So they had established peach trees already on there, also asparagus. And so we just built off that, and then we end up getting securing a grant after the ANA grant expired, was the Michigan Economic Development Grant, which basically launched us into full motion. We were able to get the sign, have 2 seasonal workers. We bought a tractor, we stored the water and electric, and now we're building on to that. We have a chicken coop out there. And then we have a learning pavilion that we hope to use this summer. And all the members always stop by or either come volunteer, and they're very protective. So if somebody stalls out and they park their car there, they're ready to get that car off that land. But this has been so amazing. Another program that we launched at the early stages was our Nottawaseppi program, which is all tribal members, and they basically cook for events. And now that has expanded. They're actually teaching, and I'll get into other slides, teaching K through 12, our TYP programs, our young early childhood, which is 2 to 8. And that's one of our most successful programs that came off from food sovereignty. And then they cater for it's almost becoming a business. They cater for a lot of different events outside of the tribes. So like universities, they're going to be cooking for Western Michigan soon. 2 events. Albion College, they have 3 events just this month. So this is the most successful program I would say, of all the food sovereignty programs that we have, which is the toddler and youth cooking class. These kids are coming in from 0 to 8, and they're learning how to break eggs open, how to plant seeds, how to harvest. They watch their pumpkins grow, and they're doing it from start to finish, and then actually making a product or something to eat. And then we also have an online class that is held with a dietitian to the left, and there are children that participate with that. And that one is very successful. That happens every month. The dietitian would showcase what she's going to cook, and then if you're interested, you sign up. If you live close, she would deliver the groceries to your doorstep, or if you lived in California, she would send you a gift card. And then they meet for about an hour and they cook and finish a meal. And then Firekeepers, our casino, we built a relationship with them. The kids go out to Firekeepers, or either the Firekeeper chefs. Those are the head chefs. They come here and then they cook. Like last week, they cooked truffles. The month before that, they cooked omelets. And all the kids want to be a chef now. Nobody wants to be on tribal council. And so another program I started was our 3rd annual garden container project. The first year was COVID, so I sent everything from Burpee directly to their home, and then Amazon products, things that would go directly to their house. And now we're in our 5th year, and for 2 years we have been using Ben Phillips from MSU Extension. He comes in for a 5-week class, and he teaches live. We live stream it, and then we send out the curriculum and the seeds directly to their home, and then they start. And then last year they got grow lights. And these are some of the facts. Again, spanning from North Carolina, Arizona, Washington, Delaware. 25% of the households responded. 41 households were elders. And the hardest was our medicine garden. Some people had to learn that a cedar tree, that if you get a cedar, you're going to get a tree. So you need to plant that somewhere. 98 raised beds were held in our first year. They went door to door within our 7 county district service area. And then we expanded it to the greater Michigan. And then if they were elders and they lived in California, I would send them a garden bed through Amazon. This is probably our 2nd most popular event. It's our Gigo Camp. There's a tribal member that owns a resort up in Pentwater, Michigan. We send about 50. I think our last year was about 60 people. And then we fish. Some people learn how to fish, and there's families share cottages, and then you have to be between 19 and 49. We kind of hit in that middle between gap. We have programs for elders and we have programs for kids, and then this was our missing population, and they love it. And then we have fish and venison donation program. Scott Chivas is an elder on the left, and he gets us about 2 to 3 venison per season. And then if we run out and other tribal members help us out, or either our conservation staff. And then Sean Doherty is our expert in fishing, and he takes out groups of men and women, and they take them out to go salmon fishing. Then this is the first time I learned how to salmon fish was about 4 years ago, and it's very exciting. And then we visit other farms, MSU Extension in Ann Arbor. We visit them on the left. We're trying to install irrigation, and then we get different. And even if we leave the state, we go try to go visit another local tribe. And then here is my contact information. And then again, I believe Lindsay will share, or maybe on a shared screen, a bookmark.
Yes, and I actually put it in the chat for folks to download, but we also will have it on screen again a little bit later. Thank you so much, Nickole. This was beautiful. I just want to point out, as we're switching over to Will, all your photos in these stories, one of the through lines I see is like a lot of joy around engaging in food and food tradition. So that's like making me a little verklempt right now. I love it. Thank you so much. We'll keep putting your questions in the chat or in the Q&A. We'll get to everyone's questions in the end. So we'll turn it over to Will now to share about his work.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you, Nickole. I found that really inspiring as well. It's so cool to see how different communities are building these programs.
Thank you.
It's really exciting. Very good. Is that showing up?
Yes, that's the presentation.
Excellent. Great. Well, again, I'm just so pleased to be here and again, to be inspired by the work that's taking place all across the country. Again, my name is William Derouin, and I'm with the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa, and GTB, as we call, just to make it a little shorter, started an agriculture and food sovereignty department back in 2019. And we'll walk through the formation of this program and just all of the growth that's happened in the last 6 years or so. And I'll apologize in advance. It's a bit of a whirlwind, but I think that'll help to give you a sense of just the rapid pace of activity that we've taken on. And it's just been a real honor helping all of this work take place. Some of the topics we'll touch on, I wanted to give just a brief history of GTB, help place, where we are and help people understand, right where we are in Michigan, talk about creating a vision and kind of choosing a path forward, identifying our available resources here at GTB. I like the analogy of growing towards the light and talking about our grants. I loved hearing about the grants that Nickole and Nottawaseppi have been successful with. And the importance of community engagement. Again, Nickole did just a wonderful job highlighting the work taking place down there. And if we can, we'll touch on really throughout the presentation on being vertically integrated. Again, just a brief history of GTB. GTB signatory of Treaty 1836, 1855, helped give shape to the northern half of Lower Michigan and the eastern third of the UP. Federal recognition was gained 1980. A 6-county service area from Charlevoix to Manistee. Some may know Michigan. We like to use the hand to show kind of the state of Michigan, and we like to say we're kind of in the pinky area of the state of Michigan. So northwest Lower Michigan. That 6-county service area, about 3,500 members in the service area, headquartered in Peshabe Town. GTB is owner of Grand Traverse Resort and 3 casinos. It does make GTB among the largest employers in northern Michigan. So as we were establishing this agricultural program, we're super thankful that a tribal counselor here at GTB had the foresight, along with members of tribal elders and the tribal community, had the foresight to want to establish an agriculture program. And in fact, a counselor ran on a platform during their election bid to establish this agriculture program. And that was a big part of this getting started. As we were just beginning discussions with tribal manager, tribal council, how we would shape this program, we looked for inspiration around the region and around the continent, work being done by tribes to help strengthen these food sovereignty goals. We identified some leaders in food sovereignty in our region. Again, identified available resources here at GTB, started to look at what departments we could collaborate with. Again, that was something Nickole touched on, very important. And then how we could make sure we're interfacing with tribal council, who of course stays in close touch with the tribal membership, and how we would host annual tribal council workshop sessions. So these are sessions we can sit down with tribal council, kind of brainstorm ideas before we go to any sort of formal council meeting where we would be, requesting funding or applying for grants. This workshop session gives us a chance to sit down with them. Of course, our programming being heavily shaped by our demographics, we're fortunate that out of those 6 counties, a lot of the tribal members, a majority live within 2 counties, so Leelanau County and Grand Traverse County. And so we really focus our efforts on where the people are. Again, I touched on some of the regional leaders in the Great Lakes. As we were getting started in 2019, we'd heard of a group called the Anishinaabe Agriculture Institute based in Minnesota. I believe it's a partnership with the White Earth tribe, as well as others. We learned of the great work that was taking place with the Oneida tribe, who was, again, another regional leader. And again, just helping us formulate how we would build this program, what our priorities would be. As we were getting started, we just created this slide back in 2019, and this was just a rough idea of kind of to shape how we would build this program. And initially, you can see we were planning to focus 50% of our efforts on kind of economically viable, self-sustaining programming, 25% into research and developing traditional lifeways and helping to establish these practices, and then 25% on building community programming. I will say, just as Nickole had to adapt through COVID, we did too. And this layout really changed a lot. And we really focused a lot more on community development, less focus on these self-sustaining, economically viable ag programs. So maintaining, being adaptable always has been important. It's been really interesting, building this presentation to share with all of you, going back to some of these slides that we put together back in 2019 when we were first forming this department, just talking about, what resources are available, what land is available here at GTB that's accessible to the community, something centrally located, and then looking at, long-term planning of where we would start to put infrastructure in order to build out this ag program. GTB here in Northwest Lower Michigan, we have, it's a very, heavy agricultural economy. I think it's the 2nd or 3rd largest economy after service industry. And so it's fortunate that GTB did have some agricultural lands to work with as we were getting started. So we started identifying these lands and really trying to find a site that is, again, centrally located. As I'd mentioned, the headquarters for the Grand Traverse Band is Peshabe Town. And so we really started focusing on lands in Peshabe Town. Here's a satellite image showing majority of the land here in Peshabe Town owned by the tribe. The areas in yellow are it's the land owned by GTB. And you can see that number 1 in the center there. It's very centrally located. It's right next to the tribe's powwow grounds, also a recreation center, the daycare facility that's operated by the tribe is all right there. And we kind of located this site. We kind of selected this site to be accessible to the community, visible. We found that having a farm that's visible and accessible really helped to shape our path forward. As we started to build this program, we wanted to, build a farm site first and foremost, kind of taking the thought that build it and they will come sort of mentality. And so as we selected this site next to the powwow grounds, this land had been purchased by the tribe back at the turn of the millennia. And these 2 apple orchards you see had sat unmaintained for about 20 years. So not very productive, but yeah, beautiful site right in the heart of Peshabe Town. And again, working with tribal manager, tribal council, we just hit the ground running. Again, I was hired in March of 2019. These are just some, this is a picture of just trying to create a vision of what we wanted: diverse agricultural production, traditional crops, healthy fruits and vegetables that, much like Nickole said, being able to serve, tribal elders meals, food pantries, youth services meals. This was kind of our vision. This is not a picture of our farm. This was just trying to help shape the vision as we were talking with management and council. You can see that this draft down in the corner, it was drafted April of 2019. So again, we just hit the ground running, trying to put some visuals together of, what a farm could look like, that we would develop in Peshabi Town. That farm map really developed over the years. You can see this is a 2022 draft. We have our 2025 draft of the farm going to print here soon. But again, we really just hit the ground running. And again, the importance of interdepartmental collaborations. As we got started, it's important to note, and I'm sure many of you can relate, that, initially the tribal council member who ran on a platform of starting an agriculture program, we wanted to be able to start with, 5 staff members and a budget for equipment and, building and all of this. But the reality of it was we were able to start with 1 staff member. We really didn't have funding for equipment or vehicles. And so we were, borrowing vehicles from other departments. We would work with our grounds maintenance staff. And here in this next slide, this tractor here was actually donated by the Public Works Department here at GTB, which operates the wastewater treatment plants for the tribe. And we're very fortunate that they would allow us to use this tractor in that first year getting started. We're very strategic in buying a few pieces of equipment to get started, an auger to, get our post holes in and start to fence in our farm, just to help with a little bit of the deer pressure. But we just really by April, May, we were just cruising along. This photo here is probably taken by June or July of that first year, just hitting the ground running. We're so thankful to have the support of the community, engaging with community members, inviting everybody out to harvest. Is very important. Some of the milestones within those first few years, again, just laying the groundwork, wanting some infrastructure, having started with really a field that hadn't been maintained in some time. We were able to identify some funding from a budget of leased land. GTB had leased some land to a farmer for a number of years, and we were able to identify that funding source that we could use. Again, all of our tractor, the trucks were all being borrowed from other departments, and we definitely owe them a big miigwech. Many thanks for them helping us get started. We're very strategic with what equipment we bought. We bought a 16-foot dump trailer here so we could haul our tractor around to a number of different sites we were maintaining. We had a pre-built shed put on site, but we did all the site prep for it. We just as Nickole had said, putting in a well and bringing electric out to the farm. We tried to do as much as we could to bring down costs, even renting a trencher to trench all the lines for the electric. Again, trying to be as vertically integrated as we can, trying to offer as many goods and services as we could to start off. This just gives you an idea of some of our production numbers for those first few years. Again, not huge numbers, but we were trying to be really strategic and impactful. We were providing some food to the tribally owned casinos, so restaurants within the casinos. We reached out to their culinary staff and featuring our food in their menus. The food pantries that GTB operates, elders meals. So elders department here at GTB has weekly meals for elders. We wanted to incorporate our food into those. Again, maintaining that community engagement. We found that, making sure that we're very public forward, making sure that people are always feeling welcome, and making sure we are always looking for participation in our events. We started hosting a farm stand at the GTB powwow, a number of other events throughout the year, health fair, a fall fair and feast that we host, getting our food into the food pantries that GTB operates, an annual plant and seed compost giveaway every spring. We've done that for 6 years now. And our sugar bush camp, which has really grown. And of course, it's coming up to that season. We're very much looking forward to sugar bush season in the coming weeks. Always, putting youth forward, just as Nickole had said, so important to engage with tribal youth. We make sure to host field trips from our local public school. Suttons Bay Public School is right around 40% tribal youth. And so we're always so happy to have them out for a few field trips every year. We'll be having them some field trips for sugar bush season coming up. Another way of kind of engaging the public is back in 2019, hitting the ground running. We hosted a logo contest, had some number of submissions, and we settled on these 2 logos for uses in various different projects. It was a great way to, drum up support and hear and kind of have some input from artists in the community. That was a great way to stay in touch. We've also done a little bit of work outside of the tribal community. We were so glad last summer we were able to host the Northern Michigan Small Farm Conference on a tour at the farm. That was also, we had a partnership with MSU last year where a horticulture doctoral student helped us do some analysis on our fertilizer and compost that we produce and help us do some product development for those 2 products. We also started hosting a cookout last summer. We did 3 cookouts, June, July, and August, and we're just so happy. We had incredible turnout, probably the best turnout we've ever had for any of our programming. It's just wonderful, featuring food from the farm, fish caught by tribal fishermen. It's just been a real pleasure. A little peek into our sugar bush program. We just built a lodge last fall to host a bit more of our programming here in the coming weeks. We just had a storytelling workshop that was successful last Friday there, teaching folks some of the traditional ways of making maple sugar. And again, bringing kids out, getting tribal youth around the fire and teaching the importance of honoring the maple trees and making sure to respect the forest. This will kind of segue into touch on grants, but much of our sugar bush programming was funded by the USDA ACER grant over the last handful of years. We're really pleased. We just got an extension on the grant through 2028. So again, finding grants to help shape the direction of your programming. I liked that analogy of growing towards the light. Being adaptable, having a rough mission or kind of a rough plan of the direction you'd like to see, but then being adaptable if there's grant opportunities that make it so you can, build your sugar bush program for a number of years, focusing on that. I'll pull up here on the next slide. This is actually a list of almost all of our grants. I think there might be another one that we've actually received. We've applied to a number of more grants than this, but these are the ones that we've received over the last few years. Been very fortunate that the direction of our program has been largely determined by the grants that we've gotten. The 3 largest grants are a USDA Local Food Purchasing Assistance Grant, which has allowed GTB to become the largest purchaser of food for food pantries throughout Northwest Lower Michigan. We were able to partner with some nonprofits, Food Rescue of Northern Michigan, the Northwest Food Coalition, and that's just been incredible. It's made a real boon during a difficult time coming out of COVID for people. I saw Nickole mention it too, that we can't always rely on federal or other programs. And so this was a big step towards food sovereignty, GTB becoming a leader in providing food for those in need in our region. Our next biggest grant program that we've developed is a fish waste management program. That was for funding provided by our Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy Department at the state of Michigan, which is our DEQ. So Department of Environmental Quality often have programs to help divert organic waste from landfill. And it's really exciting. That's become a big part of our program is managing commercially caught fish in our region and turning it into compost and fertilizer. And of course, I touched on our ACER grant, also USDA to build our sugar bush. Big part of our fish waste management grant, or at least initially, was developing a liquid shelf-stable organic fertilizer called hydrolysate. And we got funding from the state to build a facility in order to produce this product. We're very fortunate. GTB chipped in quite a bit of money to help make this happen as well. This is managing commercial fish waste, and I'm pleased to say now from May through October, we manage between 3,000 and 5,000 pounds of fish waste every week, turning it into compost and fertilizer. This is just a little snapshot of our hydrolysate product. We're still in the product development phase. We did sell some of this product for the first time last year. That was a really big milestone. It wasn't a lot. It was, I think, a couple $1,000s worth of this product, trying to encourage more sustainable practices amongst local producers, trying to offer this at a reasonable rate. The truck down in the lower left is a donated fire suppression system that the fire department here at the tribe was getting rid of. They got a new one, and we use that system to apply our hydrolysate. The hydrolysate is probably only 5% or so of our fish waste goes into the liquid process. The vast majority of our fish waste goes in to create a nice compost product. So we've really not bought any inputs on our farm for the last 3 years or so. We decided this year we're probably going to be amending our compost a little bit with some outside inputs just to improve our soil properly, actually through some soil testing done with MSU. Always glad to have partners. And we actually just started selling this compost product as well. So glad that it can help to sustain this project beyond our grant period. You can see a part of our most recent EAGLE grant. We've now got a second organic waste management grant through EAGLE, again, Michigan DEQ. This is a really handy compost spreader. We just got it last year. It's just incredible, really boosting production. You can see it here going on some early corn plantings. We're also very fortunate. Again, I cannot stress the importance of finding grant funding. This is a compost screener that we got. And so we produce about 150 yards of compost every year, and being able to run this through this screener has been huge. I believe, past our grant period, we're thinking that we could rent this out or offer this to other local farmers, trying again to incentivize more sustainable practices within the tribe's treaty area. It's important to not only maintain healthy soils on tribal grounds, but try to incentivize our neighbors to do the same. Our latest grant from EAGLE also funded an addition on that fish waste facility. You can see here, this was last summer, the site where we were going to put this addition. And we did all the construction ourselves for this. Again, trying to be, vertically integrated, take on as much as we can to reduce costs. Just to give you a sense, I think a contractor quoted us, 60 grand or something to build this thing. I think we paid $15,000 in materials to build this. And again, through some EAGLE grant funding, it allows us to keep our equipment stored a little more safely. We're also really pleased that this fish waste management grant has made it so all of the fisheries throughout our region, really ones in Leelanau County, have been able to sign up for what's called the fishery pledge to use 100% fish, 100% of their fish. So it's called the 100% Fish Great Lakes Pledge. And both tribal fisheries and non-tribal fisheries have signed up for this. And it's largely due to our ability to turn all of the fish, what was waste and in some cases going to landfill, is now being turned into a viable agricultural product. Just a little snapshot of our farm, just always looking for more growth. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's been a bit of a whirlwind building this program. Again, staying in touch with the community, maintaining community engagement has been huge. I just thought I'd touch on some areas of growth that we'd like to see in the future. We've done a little bit of work with the culinary staff at the tribe's Economic Development Corporation, and that's the casinos, Grand Traverse Resort, but we'd like to strengthen that. We see that as a part of food sovereignty here, is not just providing food for the community meals, feasts, language camp, all of that. We'd like it in some, future to be able to provide the food for the tribe's food outlets, restaurants, and such, providing healthy food options for the gas station that's located here in Peshabi Town. The Economic Development Corporation expanding hospitality services into agritourism, farm stays. These are just some ideas. We have a lot of room for growth. So that I think is just about it. I'm so glad to be here and glad we can take some questions after.
Woo, amazing. Thank you so much to both Will and Nickole. I'm gonna add you to the spotlight, Nickole, here. So you're both kind of on screen. We have been collecting a few questions for you. So we got a couple of, I think, easy ones to start with. So Shelly asked, where can we access the video on Shane's diet? And Nickole, is that on your YouTube page? Because I think I have that page ready to share.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then it's loaded on that Facebook page too.
Oh, on Facebook too. Okay. Well, for everyone's benefit, I will pop that. I have that at hand here. So this is the YouTube page I just put in the chat for everybody. Oh my gosh, this was, very inspiring. Okay. We had another question from Kim. Where is Pine Creek Farms?
Pine Creek Farms is down here.
All right. I know.
Yeah. So Pine Creek Reservation is in Fulton, Michigan, close to Battle Creek, like 15 minutes away from Battle Creek. And then our parcel, the farm, is actually 5 minutes going north back to Battle Creek on M66.
Thank you. And then we had one quick question for Will, I think it's quick. Kelia, I think is your name, asked about the model of the compost screener and the cost, if you are able to share that, Will.
Yeah, you bet. The company is actually a Michigan-based company called Easy Screen. Easy Screen. I think it was like the 1000 XL is what it was. Yeah, that thing's just been a dream.
Awesome.
How much?
Oh my goodness, it was $45,000.
Oh, farm equipment is no joke, you guys. Wow.
Again, look for those grants. Our DEQ is very, very gracious in being able to support this program.
Yes, and thanks, Chief George Spring Buffalo. Hello. Yes, this webinar is going to be shared. We'll put everyone who attended will get and registered will get a link to the recording and the slides, and then we'll be able to post it probably on a couple websites, or at least share that out to some listservs and stuff. So we'll definitely share. So now onto like some of the bigger picture, maybe a little bit deeper questions. I love it. So I will answer live here. So Anissa Madden, hello. I'm just going to read your question out loud. So, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing about how your tribes are building food sovereignty. I'm doing some research on where and how food sovereignty shows up in state food system plans in New England states. I've noticed that tribal food sovereignty, or sovereignty writ large, isn't talked about in these plans. And tribal foodways are only mentioned in passing, if at all. I have a sense about why that is: lack of trust, lack of respect, focus on commodities rather than respectful relations, systematic inclusion or exclusion, sorry, different. I'm wondering if there are examples outside the Northeast where tribal food sovereignty isn't or is part of state food plans. And do you think it's important to have tribal ways of seeing included in these plans to try to shift public awareness and understanding? Or is it more of a priority to be building food sovereignty in your tribes and communities? Hopefully that makes sense. So I think we'll start with Will and Nickole. If you all have any thoughts on that question, we can also, if folks in the chat have examples of, if you know of food sovereignty being Indigenous and tribal food sovereignty included in other state plans, please feel free to put that in the chat. But yeah, Will and Nickole, do you have any thoughts about that? It's a multi-part question.
Yeah. For us, we've actually had a very good relationship with the state. Our last grant came directly from the state, and then we didn't pursue that grant. They actually came to us. And then I've been doing a lot of hosting at state level type conferences. So, I mean, we've been having a fairly good relationship. I don't know about on their plans or anything, but as far as like protecting our rice, Governor Whitmer signed that over, and our rice is protected. And so now now it's at the state level, and now at the tribal level, we had developed a code in order to protect the land outside of our reservation. So we have over a lot of parcels, and some of the parcels that we bought are because of the rice. And so, I mean, as far as Michigan or our tribe, yeah, we work well with the state. That's a really loaded question, so I don't know if
Yeah.
I answered it right.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing that by and large, we've had a good relationship with the state, again, seeking grant funding from Eagle. As far as the question of have we heard of other regions where maybe there's a little bit more dialogue about developing these plans and incorporating Indigenous, considerations into state plans. I don't really have a lot of details, but I've heard of some, certainly, in Hawaii. There was a woman at a conference a couple years ago who spoke of some of the tribes, or the Hawaiian people having some interface. Maybe it's just on some of the islands. Again, I wish I had more details on that, but inspiring work taking place out there and dialogue taking place. It sounded like between Hawaiians and the state. And also in the Southwest, the large reservations that take up, large portions of the state of states like Arizona and New Mexico. I think, not only the, historic influence of those tribes, but also just based on the sheer amount of acreage and square miles that they operate. I think that there might be room for a bit more dialogue with the state amongst, Pueblo, Navajo, those tribes.
Yeah, and we have some folks from Hawaii on today. And if any of you want to identify yourselves in the chat, if you would like to, I think I'm allowed to like have you come on and turn on your mic if you want to share a little bit about what the work you're doing with your food system plan. We'd be happy to have a few minutes to spotlight your work, because I would say it's very much a part of Hawaii's plan, a food system plan. And I will also add, like, full disclosure, we are hoping with the interest that we got today, we definitely can make some room for a follow-up to this session and a part two to further explore some examples from around the country. Yeah, so we can do that. And so we've got Kaiulani, I'm gonna give it a shot. Kaiulani Odom saying we've got the same challenges here in Hawaii, some successes, but definitely some challenges. From Bonnie in the chat, I haven't seen tribal food sovereignty incorporated into the state food system plans in Washington. We have several community member quotes asking for this to be a priority in our community health needs assessment. Fantastic. I will say I'm going to put a link to our Good Food Charter in the chat. And page 24, we had worked on making sure that it's part of our collaboration infrastructure section to acknowledge and seek Indigenous leadership in food systems work. As what we said was acknowledge and appropriately engage the work and history of Indigenous leaders and communities as the first peoples of this land in our food system efforts. But that is not the same as having direct like Indigenous food sovereignty as like a priority noted in our charter. So acknowledging that, but there's definitely some talk about that. I'll just put it that way in our thing. So here's a link to our charter, and it's page 24, where we made sure to explicitly mention that. Okay. Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. So Alice, thank you. Alice Liu, for Hawaii, we currently do not have a statewide food system plan. Sorry to publish it before you're ready. Sorry. But they successfully passed legislation last year establishing an interagency working group, including Indigenous organizations, to strengthen coordination across departments. Meanwhile, the counties are in the process of finalizing their respective place-based food system plans. And I'm going to put a link in the chat so y'all can take a look at. I think if I put the Hawaii food, the landscape analysis, and I'm blanking on the exact name, but I'll put it in the chat so we have as part of a resource, folks can follow up. I highly recommend checking out the work of our friends over in Hawaii. Okay, so yes, thank you. Thank you. You're on top of it. Transforming Hawaii's food system. It's a really, really, really good resource. So we appreciate you. Okay, we have another question here from Daniel Great presentations both. Are either of these efforts associated with LVC and the International Food Sovereignty Movement? Do you look to them to guide or be consistent with your meanings or collective identity? Are you concerned that there's like 4 questions here. It's okay. I'll read them and then we can go one by one. Are you concerned that the term food sovereignty will be vulnerable to be co-opted or appropriated in the near future? Very important question. Thank you. So the term, wait, it disappeared. Go ahead. It disappeared. Yeah. Are you connected to the International Food Sovereignty Movement? How do you align your meanings with other sort of definitions of food sovereignty? And then are we worried about it being co-opted?
Will?
What do you think, Nickole? Yeah. I guess no, we're not really connected to too much international work. Related to our fish waste management, we were invited actually as part of a trade mission to go to Iceland, which Iceland is a leader in sustainable fisheries management. And I was really pleased that GTB, as well as the work of tribes throughout the continent, were recognized for the importance of utilizing fish waste. So in that way, it's a small kind of niche market, but talking about fish waste internationally, I was so glad to attend that conference in Iceland. And I think people were really glad that there's a kind of tribal indigenous perspective being offered at that level. So I guess in some kind of niche ways, we have been in touch with some international work, but I'd say by and large, really focusing on the GTB community here.
Yeah, I would say the same, that we're focused on the Potawatomi community, the Michigan tribal community. And as far as like appropriation, I just believe that we can all learn from each other. So I don't believe there isn't really appropriation for better health and better outcomes of, like right now, our elder median age is 50 years old, and I hope to raise that to the average. So I believe that there's no appropriation in food, because everybody deserves to eat healthy and have access to food in general. So yeah.
Thank you. And we did get some additional comments here in the chat from Chief George Spring Buffalo. And I'm not sure, PPLT / the Indigenous Food Sovereignty Program is a tribal community microfarming initiative developed by Indigenous Peoples Network of Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and fiscally sponsored by the Pocasset and Pokanoket, hopefully I'm saying these words somewhat right, Land Trust, which is a tribal 501c3 nonprofit. The program is led by Rocky Johnson, and who is a Narragansett Indian, and it serves marginalized and BIPOC communities in Rhode Island. And folks, I think, can read the rest of this, but in Rhode Island and Connecticut, by teaching people how to grow their own medicine through herbs, fruits, and vegetables. Our farming techniques are traditional Native American and never use chemical fertilizers or pesticides. We provide hands-on training, but we also plant and harvest fresh foods for those who are incapable of gardening, such as the elderly and disabled. So I think another great example of a similar program. And that actually reminds me of my question that I have for you both. And I think we'll see if we have any other questions after this, but kind of bringing it back to the tribal councils and the government structures that you each respectively have. Now that these programs are embedded in your respective governments, do you think have some of the understandings, and Will, you touched on this a little bit, have some of the understandings kind of evolved of how tribal council or tribal government structures can continue to support these agricultural programs? And Emily and I were brainstorming a little bit on some of the examples of that. So for example, like what could that look like? Would it be a food code, or working towards adding more employees, as you were talking about, Will, student internship opportunities, things like that? What does the tribal council support look like in the long term?
Yeah, I'd say, all of the above are things that people are interested in. It's, we want to grow in all these directions. And without growing the amount of annual investment that GTB has to make every year, again relying on grants, has really been for big infrastructure projects, new staff positions. Looked like Nickole kind of had something similar, building staff positions into grants. Sure is nice. But yeah, it's definitely fluid and changes with the times. COVID was a really big impact on our program and shifted us towards community programming quite a bit more, ensuring that the food pantries are something that can be sustained. Yeah, it's certainly, I would say that if you have a tribal council, tribal management that's supportive of the work at the time, just really take advantage of that and get as much as you can done during that time. But I'd say overall, yeah, it's just all of those projects are of interest. It's just how much time does your staff have to and can maintain their sanity.
I feel you on that, Nickole. Do you have anything to add?
So I would like to back up from the last question about the appropriation. That is a problem. I'm sorry. As far as like growing food, that's different. But then there's the folks that take it to the other next level and say that they're from a tribe, and then they make them as like chefs or social media platforms. There are people that fake who they are, that are fraudulent. But to this question, yes, we do have full support from our tribal council. So we do a 5-year strategic plan as a tribe, and culture, which is food sovereignty, is house under culture. That remains number one for the last probably the twice that we have did this within our strategic plan. So it's a want from our membership, and that's what tribal council is built off, what the membership wants.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you.
That's good input, Nickole. Some of those things are dynamic and can change. For us here at GTB, the agriculture program started as its own entity, reporting right to the tribal manager. After a few years, we were moved into the natural resource department here. So the entity that oversees, hunting, fishing, Great Lakes fisheries, waterway restoration. But there has been, talk of, maybe in the future moving it under cultural department. We make sure to interface with our cultural department director and the staff there, really intimately. They're going to be a big part of our Sugar Bush camp coming up here. So it's true that, maintaining those connections and just how, how a department is built is probably just dependent on each community.
Yeah, and one of the things I like to stress is that coming full circle. So we have our culture, and then that's based off of food. And then we have our art, and I try to tie all those together. So like if we have a cultural workshop, make sure that food is representative of food sovereignty. We're slowly getting there. We still want to order pizzas because we don't know who's coming, but just making that change, and yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, that's a perfect moment to kind of maybe shift to our we had 2 closing activities we want to do. So I think Emily, what do you think? Could we do just a quick touch base back on our grounding activity like we promised, and then we'll do our resource share corner again.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Or not again. We'll do our resource share, which has all the info. And we'll make sure that gets all recorded so that whoever's watching later can see it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So back to our whiteboard.
Awesome. So miigwech everyone for the questions and the dialogue and conversation after this, and to our 2 presenters, miigwech. I always learn a lot from both of you, and so we did ask all of you throughout this time together to think about what you heard today. Yep, clap, clap, clap. What this could look like in your community. And I know you started adding this in the beginning, and I see so much more since then. And let me share my screen real quick. Okay. So what this looks like in your community, again, land for growing, land and both Will and Nickole spoke at length about various land that each tribe has acquired to build infrastructure and to grow for their community in various ways. So land continues to be community supported agriculture, CSA, creative indoor agriculture for those of us in colder climates. Okay. Diversity in ways of growing and feeding. Tribal youth running maple sap. Elders teaching important stories, maintaining connection to land and water. And I'm on the Oregon coast, and food sovereignty opportunities only exist in tiny pockets. I'm looking to incorporate Indigenous voices into the nonprofit I run. Okay. So we see diversity when it comes to structures of food production, be it individual, be it tribal government, be it enterprises, and collaborations across cultures, learning from tribal members and needs. And all right, ending addiction behavior and cycles, ending depression and lack of worth. Okay. Yep. Big watch for sharing. Oh, and I see one more coming through. We need better land access, possibly help with economic development, support tribal member-owned food business. They want to do better assessment or inventory of what already exists. And maybe that's a conversation for another session too, is evaluating, assessing, what programs continue, what new programs you develop, how you obtain that feedback, what changes and impacts you might have seen in each of your communities. Okay. All right. And there are so many more. So hopefully that's okay with everyone, that we share this as part of perhaps a report out to everyone here. And I will turn this over to our last awesome presenters.
All right. We do have one more question in the Q&A box. Can our presenters see that? Because you'd be welcome to answer it live or type your answers in. I don't know if everyone can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll read the question out loud, and while we're if our presenters want to take a look at that and see if you have any thoughts, the question, and anyone in the chat could also answer this. In what ways can people or organizations outside of tribal spaces help support and uplift the voices and initiatives of work that's going on? And this is from someone in Midland, Michigan. So that's a big question. If you have any thoughts that you want to answer, I think you can type your answer either into the chat or in the Q&A box. And I'm going to go back to our share so we can take a quick look at these great resources. So we did our group synthesis. Here you go. And I will turn it over to Wendy Wheeland, our colleagues, Wendy Wheeland and Harmony Gmazel.
Well, thanks, Lindsay. I think Harmony leads us off.
I do. Thank you. Just a few resources to mention to you all, and we will drop links to these websites into the chat so you can have access to them. They may be of interest to you. The first is the Michigan Intertribal Land Grant Extension System. Operating in Michigan, it supports tribal nations, communities, and learners, and envisions a unified Michigan land grant college system based on shared knowledge, resources, and power. And the MILES, we call it, is really the next step of in building a foundation for seamless, integrated, and very intentional land grant systems serving all of the Michigan tribal nations and communities. It does include the 4 land grant institutions in Michigan, MSU and the 3 1994s located in Keweenaw Bay, Bay Mills, and Saginaw, Chippewa area. And this also includes all of the 12 federally recognized tribes as partners and nations, as we at the land grant institutions do have that responsibility to be responsive to the needs of tribal members throughout the state. And we do have integrated land grant cooperation between, like I said, Bay Mills Community College, MSU Extension, and the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. And we're grateful for those collaborations in serving our communities. And we have at MILES produced a template for an expanded and a very impactful involvement with all nations and communities in Michigan. So this is precisely the model of integrated and very sustainable 1862 and 1994 collaborations that leadership at NIFA has been working to establish. So we invite you to learn more about Miles at that link. And then before Wendy talks, I have one more, the MSU Tribal Extension Program. MSU Extension staff across the state, we collaborate with Michigan tribal nations, tribal colleges, and communities to create and deliver and evaluate relevant educational programs with and for American Indians and their families throughout our great state. And we collaborate on programming such as Building Strong Sovereign Nations, the 4-H Citizenship Academy, Good Governance Trainings, Youth Programming, Community Gardening Program, and Community Foods. Hello, Wendy.
Thanks, Harmony. Quickly, the foundation of the work that Michigan State University does in food systems development comes from our Center for Regional Food Systems, and they are our host today. We're thankful for the work that they do. We work closely with Extension through the center. And one of the projects that the Center for Regional Food System is currently involved in is the statewide and regional food systems plans community of practice. So that's bringing together leaders from across the U.S. that are working on current and emerging food systems plans to share that knowledge and to strengthen everyone's food system. And I have a doorbell. I'm so sorry, folks. Hopefully they won't ring again. Next up, and you've heard all about them from Nickole and Will, but we'll put up the links for the Grand Traverse Bay Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians and the Nottawaseppi Huron Band of Potawatomi. The next link that you'll see quickly is that to the Food Sovereignty Assessment Tool. And had we more time, we would have had you chime in to see if anyone on the webinar today had been able to use this tool yet. But it will help you demystify the process of collecting data on local food systems and will provide some tools and a framework for Native communities to measure and assess food access, land use, and food policy in your communities. We also wanted to give you a direct link to the resolution that was passed just this past November at the annual convention of the National Congress of American Indians, which is the resolution that supports tribal development of agriculture and food sovereignty programs. Very important there. And I think about last, but definitely not least, an effort that we're really proud of in Michigan, and that is the Michigan Good Food Charter. It began in 2010. It's been revised more recently in 2022. And it is a guide, a roadmap, if you will, to advance Michigan's food and agricultural contributions to our economy, protect our natural resource base, improve our residents' health, and enable generations of Michigan's youth to strive. And just one shameless plug, in case you have time on your hands, at the beginning of April, we are having our first, but not our last, Food Sovereignty Summit at Michigan State University, April 6th through the 8th. It is co-hosted by University of Michigan and ourselves at Michigan State. And it's going to be a wonderful gathering of food systems work, community solutions. A great trade show always is a draw. And we really would love to have some of you join us in East Lansing, April 6th through the 8th. And you'll see the link there to register. And I think that's what I've got. And we're at time.
We are at time. Nickole, I turned your bookmark into a slide, so if there's anything else you want to say about it.
The first one is the QR code is to our Facebook page. The second one is the Riverbanks table, which is about 40 minutes, I believe. That was Emmy nominated. We didn't win, but we won with our language video that we shared with Pokagons. And then the generational curse breaker is how we took the farm and made it into basically a safe haven for our people returning home from incarceration and rehabilitation. And we asked that everybody that's part of our, as far as our workers, that we stress sobriety, and that has become monumental in who we are and how we build in our programs. We just had our first annual sobriety dinner this last weekend, and that was really successful. And we had 8 speakers. So that's another foundation with food sovereignty is to becoming sober. And I like who wrote that, posted on that whiteboard. I can't remember. I tried to take a picture of it. But yeah, getting out of depression and everything, getting sun and getting somewhere and being part of something. Yeah, we hear that a lot.
Ending addiction behavior and cycles,
And
ending
then-
depression, lack
There
of.
you go.
Yep. Nice.
I
Awesome.
love
Oh, okay. And it looks like we had a little technical issue with copying the links to the chat. So we'll make sure that when we share these slides, those links will be live, hopefully. We'll make sure they are, so that everyone will be able to click on them. And we'll also include that like in the post, like the email out to everybody. So all the links and the slides and everything will go out. And then, oh shoot, I was going to say something. Oh, the whiteboard, we'll kind of clean that up a little bit and put that out, and we'll be able to export it as a PDF and include it with the slides. So everyone can take a look back at what folks said. So we really appreciate all the interactivity and everyone sharing ideas and questions and affirmation and everything in the chat. And just a huge thanks to our speakers. I know we're over time, but my sincere gratitude to both of you, Will and Nickole, for sharing your work. And it's more than just work. It's the work, it's the relationships, it's the culture and the I don't know, just the insights into how to approach these things. So we really appreciate that. There will be an evaluation survey once you close out Zoom. It'll automatically send that to you. And so please let us know how this went. And just teasing that we'll have a learning session in April. Everyone can come to. It's part of our national community practice, but everyone can come. And it's about our friends in Iowa are going to share how they do their evaluation for their food system plan. So we'd love to have you all come and ask good questions and share your things too. Okay. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
We'll close
Thank
out
you.
here.
Bamapi.
Yeah, Bamapi.
All right. Rachel, we can stop the recording. Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to
Yeah, that's okay. I want to I don't know how to do the
stop recording. Okay.
okay.